Entrenched Echos by Oceanera 12. Chapter 3. Broken Swords. When he had first landed in the temple, alone, Wind had been a bit nervous. It was dark, it was creepy, and Wind definitely found too many skeletons for comfort. After an hour or so of wandering by himself, he had been all too happy to stumble across warriors in 4. Or at least, he thought he'd been. Wind had opened another door and heard the two's voices echoing in the next room over. Wind had almost jumped for joy. He sprinted over to the door, only to find it locked. "Warriors 4, in here!" "Wind?" Warriors called. "That you?" "Yeah, the door's locked. Let me see if I can find a key." Wind scrambled around the room for a few minutes before finally finding the chest. It was hiding underwater because of a puzzle. He hurried to the door, only to pause for a moment to listen to the muffled sound of warriors in 4. Warriors sounded angry. 4 seemed annoyed. Wind wondered if they were stuck on a puzzle. Well, he'd be more than happy to help. Wind unlocked the door and slid it open, with a large smile. "Hey guys, I'm here to— Ah!" 4 yanked his sword through the side of Warrior's stomach and sighed. He whirled around, the blood splattering as he spun onto his face, eyes falling on Wind. Warriors crumbled to the ground with barely a grunt. Wind and 4 stared at one another. Wind stood, hands over his mouth, eyes fixed on the crumpled body on the ground. 4 held his sword tightly, eyes fixed on Wind, with something akin to annoyance. Warriors moved, ever so slightly. 4 stepped forward. "No!" Wind screamed, running forward in a desperate attempt to get there. 4 drove his sword straight through the captain's neck, and then he turned and ran. And Wind ran straight after him, pulling his sword free as he ran after whoever had just killed his older brother. It couldn't be 4. It had to be a trick. 4 would never kill warriors. He would never hurt anyone. He was 4. He was kind. He was nice. He was a bit hot sometimes and got angry when it came to some things, but he'd never enough to kill someone. It wasn't 4. It couldn't be 4. It couldn't be. And there would be hell to pay when Wind caught that slimy coward. Sky was concerned. That was a good word for it. It wasn't like Sky didn't like Legend. He did. Legend was an experienced adventurer and hero. The two of them just didn't really hang out on a one-on-one basis. Even the incident of Legend getting turned into a pink bunny didn't really count because Twilight was there. So Sky getting dropped into a creepy temple with only Legend for company was concerning, simply because Sky honestly didn't know how it was going to turn out. Legend didn't appear bothered at all by the odd pairing. He had just gotten to his feet, brushed off the dirt on his knees, and looked at Sky. Sky, he gave a little smile and a wave, and immediately wanted to smack himself, because why did he do that? Well, Legend clapped his hands together. Let's find the others. Right. Sky drew Fee, allowing the ethereal glow to light the path in front of them. It was not bright, but it gave enough light to see in front of them. Legend followed behind without a word, only stopping to check doors or for secret passages. Sky just watched, unsure of what to do or say. Legend had been doing this for much longer than he, so any advice or suggestion would it be an insult? Probably. The two wandered in silence for what felt like hours before running into Time and Hyrule in one of the many side rooms. Sky immediately brightened. "Hey!" Time and Hyrule spun around, swords drawn and eyes wide. "Whoa!" Legend put his hands up. "It's just us." Time and Hyrule looked at one another. They appeared to have some sort of silent conversation before Hyrule spoke. "Sorry, He trailed off a moment. "We found Wind, but—" His voice trailed off. Time looked down at the ground, clearly distressed. Sky frowned. Something was wrong. Very wrong. But what? Hyrule chewed his lower lip. It looked like someone had stabbed him from behind. Sky felt his blood go cold. Wind's dead? Time gave a jerky nod. No wonder the two were acting off. Legend appeared to be having difficulty breathing. Where? Hyrule shook his head. You shouldn't see it. It's not pretty. Where? Time pointed to a room behind him, and Legend took off. Sky followed close behind, only pausing at the doorway because the last time he saw Wind, he'd been smiling and laughing. And, while selfish, Sky wanted to keep that image in his mind for as long as possible. Instead of entering, he stood at the doorway, facing Hyrule and Time. The two of them appeared to be in a state of shock or something. Neither were crying, but they kept exchanging these looks and glancing back at Sky. Hyro whispered some things, but he mostly looked confused. Time didn't speak, only shaking and nodding his head. The old man must be in too much of a shock to speak. After a minute, Legend came out of the room. He scrubbed away any semblance of tears before drawing his sword. He glared at the three heroes, the determination burning bright in his eyes. Someone is going to die today. Sky swallowed. He's really... Legend looked at the ground. His hands gripped his sword so tight that Sky was afraid he'd hurt himself. We need to find the others. Sky felt detached from the situation. Maybe it was because he hadn't seen the body, but based on the fire in Legend's eyes, it might be best to stay detached. Someone needed to be the voice of reason in this situation. Wind couldn't be dead. He just couldn't be. He didn't feel dead, which was a weird thing to say, but Sky just... Sun would probably say he was in denial. Groose would probably say he was being stupid. But maybe Wind was fine. Sky wouldn't say that out loud at any point, but the thought kept him from spiraling into a depressive state. If it turned out he was wrong in the end, fine. But for now, Sky chose to believe that Wind was fine. He had to be. End of chapter 3.